My dad taught me a lot of things. He taught me how to change a tire. He taught me how to save money. He taught me how to work hard for the things that I want. But he also taught me how to throw a ball. And in many ways, I think that lesson impacted me more than all the others. Growing up, my dad would spend hours playing catch with me, trying to teach me how to throw a ball. But I was horrible. I had terrible aim, I couldn't throw very far. I was just altogether uncoordinated. But the frustration really got to me, and eventually I just wanted to give up. So one day I told my dad I was done, and I didn't want to play catch anymore. And when my dad asked me why, I said, because I throw like a girl. And I remember my dad just kind of looked at me for a moment and shrugged and said, so throw like a girl who throws well. And that was a pivotal moment for me, because even though I didn't know it at the time, his words started to reshape the way I thought about myself as a girl. Now fast forward a few years and I'm in high school, and I tell my dad that I want to be an artist when I grow up. I wanted to work for a big design company and draw all day long. And my dad says, why would you settle for being an employee? Why not be the CEO of a big design company or the president of a design company? And this blew my mind, because never before had I even considered that I could be CEO or president of a design company. And why was that? Why hadn't I thought of that on my own? Looking back, I think the reason was because I had grown up surrounded by this idea that women were beautiful and sexy and talented, but not powerful. The world puts out a message that boys are more important than girls, and I had received that message. I had absorbed the notion that my anatomy restricted me from achieving as much as a man could. But my dad's words changed all that for me, and I started to think differently about what I could and could not do. So a few years went by, and I'm in college, and I started to study art and design, just like I had planned. But I noticed that there weren't a lot of girls in my art classes with me. And the higher up I got in my design program, the fewer females were actually in there with me, until it got to a point where I was the only girl in all of my classes. And this became a problem, because soon my artwork was being directly tied to the fact that I was female. So my professors and my peers were looking at my creations and recognized them as something that was produced by a girl. They'd say, oh, that's the painting that the girl did, or that design was created by the girl. And I didn't like this. I didn't like that my art was being judged by the gender of the artist. I wanted it to be judged on its own. So I had to go back to what my dad had told me. And I thought to myself, okay, I draw like a girl, I design like a girl, but I'm gonna design like a girl who designs well. And so I did. I worked really hard. I wanted to prove to everybody in my college that I was a great designer. Now, during this college time, I was thrown into a few random elective classes, one of which was a creative writing course. I was not happy about this at all. I didn't know the first thing about writing, and I certainly did not want to write a story every single week. But my professor was a female. It was the first female professor I'd had, and she was actually very inspirational, and she encouraged me to give it a shot, so I did. And I found myself really energized by writing. I enjoyed it. I looked forward to assignments. It was kind of amazing. And one day, this female professor pulled me to the side, and she said, Chelsea, you have a passion for this. This is what you should do. You should be a writer. And I said, no. I'm going to be an artist. I'm working really hard to be an artist. And so I forgot all about that conversation. So years went on, and after college, I got married, and I started looking for a job in the design industry. But that turned out to be really difficult. A lot of design companies weren't hiring, and the few that weren't in Phoenix. They were in San Francisco or New York, and that just wasn't gonna work for me. So I told my husband how frustrated I was, and he said, well, why don't you start your own design business? And again, my mind was blown, because I'd never before considered that I could start a business. And again, this goes back to the idea that the world puts out there that tells me that I'm not as important as a guy. That guys are the leaders, guys are the CEOs, guys start businesses. I mean, I was believing these things, which is why I wasn't thinking of them on my own. So it took a lot of hard work, and it took a lot of bravery, but I started a design business painting murals, and it was relatively successful. I did that for 6 years. And during these 6 years, I started to write just for fun, just as a hobby, because as it turns out, my female professor was right, and I had a passion for writing. And I eventually finished a short story. But I didn't know what to do with this finished story. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should get it published." And I was like, no, I don't know how to publish a book. I'm not worthy of being published. No way, that's not going to happen. And I really fought the idea. She was like, "No, you should get it published. Really, you should try." And I couldn't figure out why I was so resistant to the idea of trying to get my work published. Until I realized that it was because I had brought those insecurities back onto my shoulders. I had allowed myself to believe once again that I was a girl, so I wasn't good enough. I was afraid that I wrote like a girl. And I was afraid that the publishers would see that I wrote like a girl and then wouldn't publish me because of that. And how ridiculous is that? So I wanted to be a girl who wrote like a girl who wrote well. And if I was going to do that, I was going to have to try. So I sent my little finished short story to a publisher, and I waited, and it was so scary. I was so afraid that they were going to reject me and that I was going to fail completely. And it was the most nerve-wracking thing I'd ever done. But less than a year later, that little story was a bestseller on Amazon around the world. And now I have this great career as an author, and I write young adult fiction and adult fiction, and I have 7 published novels, and it's amazing, and I love it. And I would have none of it if it hadn't been for just a few words that some important men in my life spoke to me. So I want to talk to the guys in the audience today. Because my whole life was changed because of a handful of words that my dad and my husband said to me. My dad told me that there was nothing wrong with throwing like a girl. And because of that, I went and pursued dreams bigger than I ever imagined. And my husband believed in me so much that I wasn't afraid to start a business and take those dreams into my own hands. So I want to encourage you guys to speak deliberately to the women in your lives, to your moms, your girlfriends, your sisters, because what you say matters. Your words matter, and they could change those girls' futures. And girls, I want to talk to you too, because this world is going to remind you that you are female over and over and over again. And I don't want you to ever think that's a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with being a girl. I am just like you. I was you when I was 9 years old, and I'm you standing here today. I'm a girl living in a world that constantly tells me that I am less than a man, and it's not true. Because it's okay to throw like a girl, it's okay to draw like a girl, it's okay to write like a girl, to walk like a girl, to talk like a girl, to dress like a girl, to fight like a girl. It's okay to be a girl. There is power in being a girl. You are not just beautiful and sexy and talented, you are powerful. But you have to try. And I have to try. I have to keep trying. I have to keep telling myself and reminding myself that there's more to me than just being a girl. Now, I don't know what's next for me. I don't know what dreams lie ahead or what doors I'm going to walk through. I don't know where I'm going to go or who I'm going to be or what I'm going to do. But no matter what, wherever I go, I'm going to go there throwing like a girl who throws well. Thank you.